and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. And we're back. Welcome back. If you haven't listened to the first part of the show, you should go back and listen to all of Jason's story about how he got into IT and all that. I know you're really like, that was a good story, man.
Okay,
it was.
You say so.
It was.
I don't know why anybody wants to hear that.
It's people are interested because we have established IT careers. People are interested in how we got to where we are, so that's why they wanted to hear it.
The nerd nerded.
The nerd nerded?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Valid.
That's what I'm going with. The nerd nerded.
Is that like the short story of Jason? The nerd nerded?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when I get into it, I was just going to say, yeah, I was a nerd when I was a kid, and I'm a nerd now, so, poof.
The nerd IT. Nerded and has thus far succeeded in nerding.
And now the news.
And now the news. All right, so let's move along. First of all, we have our usual announcements. Patron update. We gained a new patron in the past 2 weeks. So, cool. Thank you to NamePending197.
Hopefully you get your name soon.
Who's in our Discord, so thank you. I've chatted with them before. Cool stuff.
Although being 197th in line, probably could take a while, so...
Yeah, right. Name pending 197, 197th in queue, or are there 197 people with the name pending? That seems unlikely. But whatever. There's a story there. There must be a story behind that number. So anyway, name pending 197. Jeremy with some accents over the e's. I'm probably mispronouncing that. It's probably some weird phonetic something or other of the word Jeremy. Jeremy. I don't know. Jeremy. Okay. Aronami, Andrew, Tatro, Bruce, Robert, Matt, David, Solemn with a 3 and a 0. Trooper-ish, Linux666, Gimpy B, Mark with a K, Dementor, or The Mentor if you're in our Discord, John the Nice Guy, Mark with a C, Julius, Andy, Jay, Charles, and our good old buddy 22532. Thank you all for being patrons. We're getting I think it's like $98 a month now. So that's pretty cool. That covers things like what we pay for Riverside now to do our recordings, what we pay for hosting, what we pay for, Libsyn, a few other things. So that's great. That's great. Very appreciative of all of you for choosing to give us money to do this, which is great.
We like money, even though I don't see any of it.
I keep offering to give you something, and you keep saying no. So, Don't tell
them that.
Oh, okay. You guys want to pay Jason? Let me know. All right. If you want to support the show and get a T-shirt or something instead of a recurring sort of money into nowhere sort of thing, you can go ahead and do that at Teespring. Teespring.com/stores/Iron Sysadmin. And a new thing I've added to the notes, since we're using Riverside now, they have an affiliate program. If you run your own show, or if you run a podcast or something where you want to get really cool quality recordings like we do for this show, you can get Riverside, and using our affiliate link, we get a little bit of a kickback for that. So if you want to do that, there's a ridiculously long link that I'm not going to read in the show notes. You go and you click that and you sign up for Riverside, we get a little bit of money out of that. So, if you want to do that and help the show out, great. Riverside has been a fun, or I shouldn't say fun, it's been a functional and good platform, right? Pretty cool stuff. So, you usually put in an announcement here about B-Sides Delaware, and I know that's coming up.
Yes,
you want to let us know what the dates are?
B-Sides Delaware, the 12th and 13th of November? It's the Friday and Saturday. I keep screwing up the dates. Registration's open. CFP is open. If you'd like to speak, let us know. We want to hear your talk. If your talk is not security related, we want to hear your talk. If your talk is security related, we want to hear your talk. It's family friendly. We're going to be virtual, so we're interested in talks from all walks of life. So,
you're like the only conference that did not jump right back into the we're going to be in person and then go, oh crap, we have to go back to virtual.
No, we actually we had been kind of watching things right up until June-ish, I think. We made the call early. Delta sort of came out and was banging around, and we saw what was going on, and we said, yeah, it's not worth putting people at risk, so we're just going to be virtual again. I would really, really, really like to do an in-person conference.
Absolutely.
So get vaccinated or wear a mask. So do something.
BesidesDE.com, is that it?
It's BesidesDelaware.com. Delaware spelled out.
All right, I'm putting it in the notes. So, BesidesDelaware.com, you can find the CFP there. You can find the dates there, which are the 12th and 13th. Somebody was kind enough to throw that in the chat.
Yes, keeping with the virtual. That was my off the cuff slogan.
Nice. All right, so yeah, besides Delaware, when it goes back in person, I highly recommend you go to the in-person conference because it is an awesome time. You'll probably see me there when it's in person again. You'll absolutely see Jason there. And really, a lot of other hackers that are from this region, you'll see at Besides Delaware. It's a great conference, and it's a good time. And my kids love to go there and lockpick. Yeah,
again, like it's yes, technically it's a security conference, but we have people from all walks of life. We have people that are just IT.
I gave a talk there about how to start a podcast.
Yeah, so you had your talk about how to start a podcast. We have this really, really cool guy who every once in a while does a talk and demonstration on self-defense. We've had people talk about, pretty much anything. I want to say there may have been a talk about beer one year. Whatever. Like as long as it's not offensive. And it's trying to teach somebody something. Like we're cool with it.
I do want to say the online conference last year was also good. So I'm not trying to say don't go because it's online. In fact, if you're not local to Delaware, or at least this side of the country, the virtual conference is a great way to get involved with it anyway.
And the plan moving forward, we're hoping to enact it this year, but the plan moving forward is to keep it hybrid. So, there will be an online component to it. We had been trying to do the streaming thing prior to this, but we want to make it more hybrid and more interactive. So.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good conference, and whether it's virtual or in person, I highly recommend it. It's I've been there as an attendee several times. Even I think before you were involved in it. No, I think you were involved in it the first time I got out there. You got involved in it pretty early.
Yeah.
But this year, apparently, I'm dealing with the Discord server or the Discord instance. We should probably talk about that.
Yes.
You and I, that is.
Discord.
Right. So I'm assuming that if it's hybrid next year, I'm going to have to deal with that, even if... Don't you ruin my B-Sides Delaware. Anyway.
Automate it.
Good idea. All right, so reviews. There's nothing new this time around. We haven't gotten any new reviews in a while. I think February, when I was looking, is the last time we got a review. So, folks, leave us reviews. That's how we know whether you like what we're doing or not. We're just going to assume that you like what we're doing, or maybe that you hate what we're doing, and we're going to change everything. So let us know if you like what we're doing. Oh, Call for Volunteers 2019 is on the B-Sides Delaware homepage. You might want to fix that.
No, it wasn't.
I don't know. That's what B. Cantrell is saying.
I will look.
Anyway, you do that. Fix that right now. All right, so yeah, there's no reviews. This is the part of the show where we just kind of BS for a little while about interesting things that have been going on in our own lives.
Yeah, what? That's just the news feed.
Is it there?
No, it's there because it's just the news feed.
Okay. Yeah. Well, update your news feed.
I did. Besides DE 2021 registration is open. Just because there's new news doesn't mean the old news goes away.
Sure, it does.
But yeah, I mean the volunteer link.
The new news overwrites the old news.
Yeah, the volunteer link probably still goes to an old page. I think it does. Yeah, because being virtual, we didn't have a whole lot of need for volunteers last year. So
yeah, good point.
The website needs a revamp, a very serious revamp. We'll get there eventually.
It's a shame you don't have any IT professionals involved.
I know, right?
To do that.
You think being in the security community would have somebody who can do a website?
In my experience, people in the security community are good at breaking and burning your website to little pieces. Not so good at writing one.
Yeah, I'm good at protecting them. Also, not good at writing them. So.
Right, I know. It's like the problem when you're run by a bunch of infosec and infrastructure people is that nobody has any idea how to design a website.
Yeah.
Yes, our website is black with green text, and that's it. Because it looks like the terminals we're used to being in all day.
Oh, it looks like you never changed from the default the default theme for your instance. Like, yeah, that's because I don't really care.
That's the theme? What? How? I don't even know how to do that.
Content that matters.
But, yeah, it's the content. Anyway. So, I've been tinkering with a couple things the past couple weeks. I kept having this weird problem. So we've talked about 3D printing plenty of times on the show. You have an Ender 5 as well, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to.
Did you ever actually get it working?
Yeah, I've had it working a lot. At the moment, I haven't messed with it in a little while. I've been so busy. But I think my
printer is almost always printing something.
Oh, that's nice.
But a couple months ago now, I picked up a new build sheet for it. Or build
plate,
right? Build plate. That's the word I'm looking for. That's got a PEI coating on it, and PEI is awesome because when it's hot, everything just sticks to it like freaking glue, and when it cools off, it releases really well.
Yep.
And it's been like the best thing ever, right? Well, I was having this problem where when I printed small enough parts, things that were right in the center, where every build always starts, they weren't sticking right anymore. Right, and I cleaned the damn thing, and I looked up a number of things. People like, oh, clean it with this, clean it with that, Dawn dish soap, isopropyl alcohol, Windex, all kinds of things, right? And none of it was working anymore, right? And I kept cleaning it and doing whatever, and it didn't work. Finally, I came across a thread on Reddit. Someone's like, take really fine sandpaper and sand it. Not like heavily, because of course you'll sand through. It's only a thin layer of this PEI stuff. You'll sand through it if you go too hard. So I happen to have fine sandpaper because I've done things like body work on cars, and that requires fine sandpaper as you're going down. So I took some of that and I sanded it down, and the whole time I'm just terrified because the finish on the PEI used to be kind of like a glossy, and now it's really scuffed. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at it like, I just ruined my PEI sheet. I'm going to have to buy a new one. This sucks. Well, guess what? It worked. So if you've got a PEI build sheet or build, what's the word again? The bed.
Build plate.
Build plate, and things aren't sticking anymore. Lightly sand it. It worked. Yeah. It did a perfect job.
Very lightly. So like we're talking like 300 or 400 grit sandpaper. Light.
Yeah, I used 300. I used 800 if I remember correctly, because that was the finest that I had. And they were saying between 6 and 1200 is what they would recommend.
Yeah, because
for sanding this down.
What happens is as you print on it, like the fact that it's rough is part of what helps it stick to the PEI. Right. And as you print on it, that gets filled in because with microscopic particles. I have I guess it's PEI. Mine is like 1/4 inch thick or 1/8 inch thick.
So the plate on mine, the plate itself is spring steel, and then it's got a coating on top of the steel. Right, and then of course the steel sticks to the magnetic bed.
Oh no! But I just bought a plate, and then I have little clasps that hook it onto the plate, onto the existing plate.
Oh yeah, no, this is right from Creality, and it just sticks to the old magnetic bed, the same bed that was there nice. For. I mean, it was really nice. I just pulled off the old textured one and slapped on the PEI. So it worked out really well.
I may have destroyed the old textured one.
I did too. As soon as I started printing with PETG instead of with PLA.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. If you switch from PETG to PLA and back and forth, either get 2 build plates or or you have to clean it really good in between, right? Because the PETG will sort of coat whatever you're building on. In my case, it was the PEI. And it doesn't really come off, but cleaning it with Dawn dish soap, believe it or not, is enough to strip that off, and then you can go back to switch to your other material. I found that out the hard way too because it wasn't sticking right.
Yeah, but, I don't know if you saw this, but just in case you haven't, glass build plates are all the rage.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's PETG. One of the things that you can print on your printer. if you print it on glass, it will never come off because it specifically adheres to glass.
Yeah, some people say that that's the case with PETG printing on PEI, but I haven't had a problem with that.
Yeah, I forget what it was. I was like, oh, because I was looking at glass plates initially, and I saw this, and I'm like, oh, I probably should avoid that then.
No, I got to say that because with the textured mat that came with the Ender 5, basically the first couple times I printed PETG on it, it stuck so well that it tore the plate, tore the build sheet. So obviously I had to replace it. When I was looking at what to replace it with, someone had recommended PEI, so I tried that, and I see no reason to try anything else. It's perfect. As long as the thing... So there's a couple little scratches in it, because when I first got it, I was still learning how to like release something from it. It doesn't just pop off. You have to... If you pull it off, if you can't just pull it off, you have to take it off of the magnetic plate, and then you flex the thing, and it pops right off. Well, I didn't know that, so I was still using the little scraping tool that came with it. So I've got a couple gouges in it, but if you avoid getting gouges in it, you get like a mirror smooth finish on the bottom of whatever you're printing, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And some people say you only get that with glass. Well, I get it with PEI. As long as I don't print over one of the little gouges that I made. It's freaking smooth. I've got
glass on mine too, or I've got PEI on mine too, and it's mirror. Really
I mean it's great.
I destroyed my original build plate with I had some calibration issues. So the nozzle tried to push itself through the plate.
You put the nozzle. Yeah, that's not a good way to do it.
No.
I had a bed leveling problem before I switched because the Ender 5s have this reputation for having a warped plate.
Yes, mine was warped,
and I think mine has a slight warp to it, but it's not bad. So I was really thinking about getting a BL Touch, but once I got the PEI sheet, because it has that spring steel, it kind of made up for that unlevelness.
Yeah, mine did too. My bed was warped like towards the center, so it was like a bowl.
Mm-hmm. That's how they all. Yeah. That's usually how they're warped.
Yeah,
so mine's like weird. That. Just in the center, it's a little bit, not much, but I mean you're talking millimeters when you're printing, right?
Yeah.
So that's enough to screw it up. But yeah, once I switched the plate, it was better. But anyway, I mean, I don't even think I would try glass. I have a friend who bought an Ender 5 Plus, which is the larger version, right? And that came with a glass build sheet. He's had nothing but trouble getting things to bond to it. The PEI is perfect, so I'm just using the PEI. Screw that.
He's got the digital LCD touchscreen too, doesn't he?
Is it a touchscreen? It came with the BL Touch. It came with a larger build area.
Yeah,
right. So it's basically physically larger.
Pro?
I have the Pro. He's got the Plus.
Yeah. So we have the Pros then.
Yeah. But yeah, the Plus is bigger. It's got a glass build plate or sheet or whatever you call that. It's got a BL Touch on it. It's got, I don't remember if I think it does have a different control panel than mine does.
Yeah, it's like located in the center, and it's all touchscreen and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he just wanted to be better than me when he bought it. That's why he got that one. But he barely uses it because he was so frustrated by the problems he was having with that glass build sheet. I'm like, I don't have that problem. Maybe you should get a PEI sheet.
Yeah, Creality's interesting because there's a lot of different issues that happen, I guess, with Creality printers. So they're good, but they're not consistent.
Once,
I guess, is the way
once you deal with the issues, though, I mean, my printer's been pretty freaking solid. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but it's been solid.
Yeah, I think my novel.
I actually had very few problems with mine when I got it. Like, I started printing off the SD card like immediately, and I had an issue trying to get the heated bed to work, but it turned out it was because the power supply was set to
240 and not 120.
240 instead of So once I discovered that, everything started working again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
just like that.
Yeah, I had the same experience. Like, mine started working fine once that was done, and then I upgraded to a BL Touch because it would print okay until I got to detailed fine prints that had like I wanted to print something that had a little bit of surface, and for the first couple layers, instead of like the whole thing is surface, I would have adhesion issues. So I got the BL Touch, and that made it better. And then the build plate made it even better. And right now, I think the nozzle is clogged, so I need to fire it up and clean it out.
Yeah, that's a pain in the butt too. I think, you already know about the trick where you loosen up the head a little bit, and heat it up, and then rejoin it. Because I had a lot of problems with that, where the Bowden tube would get clogged right at the head.
Yep.
Because of heat soak issues.
Yep.
Which you're not supposed to get with those type of Bowden tubes, but if there's any kind of gap there, you'll end up with heat soak that goes up in there. And then I especially had that trouble with PETG, and I still do. If I print with PETG,
that's what's loaded in it now. It's PETG, so I think figure into the same thing.
As much as I like the output of PETG, because everything feels a little more rigid, a little more solid, a little less breakable than with PLA. I always have trouble with the nozzle clogging or whatever, and that's frustrating. So I usually use PETG now, or not PET, PLA. I am curious about PLA Plus. That could be a good happy medium. I don't know if you've seen PLA Plus yet, but it's basically another sort of compound of PLA, which requires a slightly higher printing temperature, but it has a lot of the properties of PETG with a lot of the benefits of PLA. Right, like the ease of use of PLA, but the strength of PETG. So I'm really tempted to try it out. I just haven't done it yet.
My son has printed a little bit with carbon fiber.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
You need a special nozzle for it. You can't just, like, if you put it through that nozzle, it'll destroy it. But the prints look really, really nice. Carbon fiber is not cheap, but the prints look really, really cool.
That's cool. I'll have to look into carbon fiber now. Really, this whole thing fascinates me, with all the different options you've got, all the different things you can do to print in other ways and whatever. I saw an ad the other day for a 3D printer, which basically has 3 different replaceable not extruders, hot ends.
The hot ends,
whatever.
Yeah.
The end that heats up and spits out stuff.
Yeah.
You can replace it with a laser etcher, a hot end for 3D printing, or a wood router.
Yeah, that's pretty.
And it's like all in one machine, right?
Yep.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, there were a couple of those on Kickstarter.
Yeah, maybe this is the outcome of one of them. I don't know, but it looks pretty cool. It's all modular like that. I'm not going to rush out and buy the thing, but I thought it was pretty cool that this is where it's going, because they're all essentially the same machine. They just have a different end.
Yeah, and then if you want to look at something interesting, well, so there's different types of 3D printers. Like, we have an XYZ axis one. There's the one that's just like hanging on arms, and it just moves the arms all over, which is kind of cool. Then, like, if you want to look at something really, really neat, and I'd love to get one of these. Just haven't found a good one to get. Look at resin printers.
Yes, I have looked at those. They
build down, sort of.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's a laser. It's just a laser in a bowl of water with some goofy stuff at the bottom. It's really, really neat.
So one of the things I like to do, or I would like to do more of, but it's really frustrating with a standard 3D printer, is to print minifigs for like D&D.
Yeah.
For tabletop games, and they say resin printers are so much better for it.
Yeah.
So it's a tempting thing. I don't know if I'm ever going to rush out and buy a resin printer, but that'd be pretty cool. I think that'd be cool for that particular niche.
Much cheaper than the Ender by a lot.
Is it?
Yes. You can get a resin printer for $100.
Maybe I'll look into a... No, I can't. I'm not going to look into a resin printer.
Granted, the $100 ones are not... They're you're going to get what you pay for, so...
Yeah, right.
I haven't, I think probably the most expensive resin printer, I haven't dug deep into it, but, $200 is about the most expensive I've seen. But you can, and a resin printer's print bed, if you will, is as big as you can make the tank. So in theory, you can print some pretty big stuff with a resin printer without going too crazy. It's just as long as you can get the laser to move and point at all the right places, you're good.
Pretty cool. Now I'm going to have to look into resin printers.
You're welcome.
It's your fault.
Yep.
It's your fault.
I'm here to enable.
So anyway, welcome to 3D printing with Iron System and Podcast. Let's see, what else have I had going? Oh, I've been tinkering with some more Home Assistant stuff.
Of course you have.
Basically, I was talking to, you guys might remember Alex, who we had on the show, might be 2 months ago now, and he was talking about home automation. And he has this, I don't know, methodology or whatever. He has this thing that he says that home automation isn't just getting your smart speaker to turn on the lights for you. It's having the lights turn on when they're supposed to turn on without you having to tell them to, right? That's home automation, right? It's not just like, oh, I've told the thing to turn on the lights and turn them on for me. That's the same as hitting the switch, except you're using your voice. But like, you know, at 8 a.m., the lights come on, or you come home from work and the lights come on, or it plays your favorite podcast when it's supposed to play it, like that sort of thing, right? So I've been tinkering more and more with, I've been taking that like methodology and I've been trying to apply it to more things. So now I do things like the lights in my office here, I have them on, of course, during the day while I'm working. Well, usually at lunchtime I go out for a walk. So now I have it set up so that when I go for that walk, Home Assistant realizes that I've left the building and it turns off my office lights. Or if we're out somewhere in the evening and it's dark outside already and we come home, the living room lights turn on because that's where we come into the house through. I don't yet have the porch lights connected to Home Assistant, but that's next.
Wait, what
so that if we...
Are you doing this through like Bluetooth radio or something?
So, the Home Assistant app on my phone, of course, knows where I am.
Right.
And if it's not like perfectly accurate, it's as accurate as your phone's GPS is, right? So if I walk far enough away from the house, the app goes, "Oh, he's left home," and tells my Home Assistant he's no longer home, right? And then that tells my lights to turn off.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
you can do it with little Bluetooth LE, you know, like a thing in your pocket or through your phone. If you have sensors in different rooms, you can even tell it to track where you are in the house. So if I walk into the dining room at breakfast time, it'll turn the lights on and play my good morning routine, right? I don't have that stuff, but theoretically, that's a thing I could do.
Right. So my phone, my iPhone, when I get into my car, goes, "Oh, you've connected to that Bluetooth device. I know what that is. You must be going somewhere. Here's a map of the most recent places that you've been and the most likely one you're headed to." So, like, I go out to get the mail in the afternoon, and it's like, you've gotten in the car between 12 and 1 o'clock, and it's a weekday. Here's the map to the post office, as if I'm going to get lost getting there. But,
right.
you know.
Yeah, and that's
more machine learning based, but, you know, it's still using the radios to do it.
To me, that feels a little creepier, right? Because, you know, obviously I have an Android phone. You know that. The people who listen to the show know that. Google is telling me those things, which means Google is figuring out what I do with my life.
Yeah.
Which kind of bothers me a little bit. In your case, your phone, or maybe Apple, is doing the same thing, right? In my case, this is all self-hosted and completely controlled by me through Home Assistant, right? Which I think is a little cooler, just because...
Yeah, no,
it's not some
no.
high-paid engineer at Google figuring this stuff out for me, right? And it's all private. I don't know. I just think it's more fun
all I'm
this way.
saying is that the Bluetooth radio, the MAC address of the Bluetooth radio is what triggers part of that.
Yep. Yeah, same concept. Same concept.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's been fun. And we've said this a number of times. It's a freaking rabbit hole, and it's going to just keep going deeper and deeper.
Yeah. Well, when you perfect your house, you can come over and set mine up.
Okay. Well, I'll send you some links to smart light bulbs that'll get you started, because that's exactly how I started. And then you can build a Home Assistant, and then you'll be like, "Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. Hey, wife, can you put the app on your phone so we can do the same stuff for you?"
That's not a thing that's going to happen. And you know, at that point, when I disappear, just look for the freshly dug dirt back in the woods.
Okay. And anyway, the only other thing I had going on is on Steam, they just re-released Myst. Do you remember Myst?
Yes, I'm actually waiting for Firmament to come out.
I don't know if I know that.
You don't know about Firmament. Firmament is by the Myst crew. It is their latest game that they're actively working on right now. That was a Kickstarter that ended last year.
Firmament.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they're going to use some of the proceeds from re-releasing Myst to fund Firmament.
Yeah,
I'll have to look for that now.
Yeah,
now I'm curious.
Cyan is still kicking.
Myst is obviously they re-released this game. Myst is a game I played back in the 90s, which you probably did too if you remember it.
Oh, yes.
And I played
Myst
the
was
heck
awesome.
out of it. I loved this game. It was it's really the first game I remembered that had full motion cutscenes and stuff in it, right? Even though they weren't like what we expect today, where you have all these awesome 3D renderings that look so lifelike and whatever. But it was really kind of groundbreaking for the time.
An actual
Most
video.
of the gameplay... Yeah, that's what I mean. Most of the gameplay was, clicker, still screen stuff, but then they would put animation on top of it for certain things.
Yes.
And you could always tell because it was grainy, and, we just didn't have the technology at the time. Well, it's been re-released, and not only has it been re-released, it's been re-released in VR. And recently, as I've talked about before on the show, Mark was kind enough to give me his old VR headset when he upgraded to the I'm blanking now on the name. He upgraded headsets, and he gave me the old one. I had to buy some stuff to make it work, which I did recently, and I've been having lots of fun in VR. 13-year-old me is like, I have VR now! Because that was like a dream when I was a kid, right? Like, VR.
Yeah.
Remember Lawnmower Man?
Yep,
right?
I've been avoiding it.
It's great.
Oh,
I have to say,
I know it.
It's great.
I've had the headset on once or twice, and I have to walk away from it because I will never take the thing off.
So for me, it works out because whenever I hook it up, immediately it seems like that's when the kids walk into my office and they're like, "Ooh, can I play?" Because they want to play VR too. So I have to limit it by waiting until they go to bed at night.
Right.
And then I fire up the VR, which means I only get an hour or two to play, although it is dangerous because I could end up being up till 3 a.m. playing VR. But yeah, Myst in VR was a lot of fun. I've already played it through. Yeah, right. I've already played it through, which maybe it's because I remember the game from when I played it so much when I was younger, right? So I have a lot of the hints and whatever. What I love about that game is that everything you need is right there in front of you, but the puzzles are not obvious, right? Some of them are kind of obvious, but like there's books. You pick up the book and you read a book. I'm in VR holding a book up to my face, reading this journal written by, the guy who you're basically retracing his footsteps throughout the game of Myst, right? And it was just such an experience to be able to do it in VR. So if you haven't played Myst in VR, or if you've never played Myst and you like puzzle games, check out Myst in VR. It's pretty damn cool. Yeah,
there were... I didn't realize there were this many, but I know that Riven was a sequel to Myst. And then apparently... Stop asking me things. Apparently there were 3 other sequels. So there's a Myst 3, a Myst 4, and a Myst 5.
I knew about Myst 3, but never played it. I did play Riven.
There's a Myst Online, which is called Uru.
I didn't know that either.
And then they have a game called The Manhole, Spelunks, Cosmic Osmo, and then Abduction. Which I have Abduction. I haven't played a whole lot of it. And then
I'm gonna have to look these up now.
Yeah, Firmament is the new one. So if you go to cyan.com, they have all their games listed. But Firmament's the new one. That was really, really cool.
I'll have to check out.
It's like it's very Myst-like, but using new tech, and I'm very, very thrilled to see this thing come out. And I believe they're doing VR by default in it to begin with. So
good. Well, I say good only because I have a VR helmet and I would like to try it, but that was another thing that I liked about the re-implementation of Myst is a lot of times you get 2 different versions of a game. One works in VR, one works in flat, some people call it, or 2D. In this case, it's written in the Unreal Engine, and it basically seamlessly, you can play the game normal keyboard, mouse, monitor, and you can play it in VR. So basically the same save game I started out in VR, I played it for an hour or so just on my normal display, and then I went back to VR and picked right up again. It was pretty cool. The UI was a little bit clunky, and I'm hoping they improve that with some updates or whatever, because I I bought this maybe 2 weeks after it was released. There were some glitches in the UI, and I hope they fix those. But otherwise, it was still very playable, and it was a very good game. I recorded some of it. I didn't stream any of it, although I was tempted to. I may end up making those into videos to release, but I don't know if I will or not.
You and Mark should get together and Twitch stream together.
So funny you should mention that, because you may remember that Diablo 2 is re-releasing.
I may have pre-ordered it and have the beta sitting on my Xbox.
So did I, and so did Mark. And we've been talking about this. So it happens to be that it's releasing the day of our next show.
Wow, so we've been soon?
Yeah, it's the end of September.
Wow, okay.
Apparently we have Iron Sysadmin scheduled for that night. And both Mark and I are like, it'd be a lot of fun to sit down and play Diablo 2 instead of doing a show. Maybe we'll stream it as a show. So I don't know. Anybody who's listening or watching, if you want to see us play Diablo 2 instead of doing our next Iron Sysadmin podcast, let us know. I think it might be fun.
I think I've got a lot of games floating around in my head, but I think it's cross-platform play as well.
If it is, then you are welcome to stream with us.
I could join too. No camera, but
yeah. Well, the way we did it, so they're in the open beta, which was only open for a couple days. We did a stream, me and Mark, and we basically did audio through Discord, through a Discord channel that we're both members of. We could do it through the Iron Sysadmin Discord, but we did it through a different one that we're both members of. And then I brought that all into OBS the same way I do for the show, and we streamed. You could see my screen, and you could hear Mark, but we could certainly do it with the three of us if you can do Discord and your game at the same time.
I don't see why I couldn't do that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah. That'd be interesting.
So anyway, if everyone's like, no, I must have Iron Sysadmin podcast on that day, if you feel strongly about that, let us know. But we may actually do that. We may do a night of streaming Diablo 2.
I don't know. When Mark starts singing, Frozen songs in the middle of playing Diablo 2, it might take me out of it. Maybe we can get him to sing like period appropriate tavern songs or something. That would be so much better. Was it?
So yeah,
typical in your Witcher.
There you go. Have him sing that.
Which Netflix is giving me the bestest birthday present.
Oh, that's right. There's a Witcher anime coming.
That's already out. I already saw it.
Oh, okay. But I didn't watch that yet.
It's actually very good. But the second season of Witcher is they're releasing it on my birthday. So
awesome. That was delayed because of the pandemic, wasn't it?
I don't know. Was it?
Because my wife read the books, or some of the books, and then she watched this first season, and that was like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
I thought it was last year, actually. I know time is...
I could be wrong.
I know time is screwy, but I'm pretty sure it was last year.
Time is screwy the past 2 years. It's like, wait, what month is it again?
Yeah.
What year is it? What happened to 2020?
Yeah, it feels like 20 years have gone by, and yet now it's September, and I'm like, Jesus, didn't it just turn summer? Yeah.
Right. Sorry, apparently I just spilled a little bit of beer on my keyboard. I have to fix that.
Oh. That's alcohol abuse.
I don't know how I did it. I moved the beer away from my mouth too quickly. It does not appear to have gotten in the key.
Alcohol abuse.
Alcohol abuse, indeed. All right. Hopefully I didn't just ruin my expensive keyboard. Okay. Anyway, that's all I had going on. We've talked about it for like half an hour already. What do you got going on? Anything cool? Be careful with my beer now.
I happened to notice that the PlayStation video live stream
thing
was going on today. Where they're supposed to announce all the new games and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I used to be a PlayStation fan. I had a PS2 and loved the hell out of it. And then I got a PS3. I was lucky enough to get one of the original PS3s from I bought it from a friend.
Before they gimped it? Yeah,
before they gimped it. And I just couldn't get into it. At that point, I had the Xbox from our buddy at the college and had started playing that, and I wanted so desperately to love my PS3, and I just couldn't. And I skipped PS4 entirely, and I'm skipping PS5 entirely. But this happened to be coming out, and it was on, and I was like, oh, I'll take a look and see what's coming for PlayStation. If you own a PlayStation, I'm sorry. Everything that's coming out is a remake. Sony sucks. I don't even know what to say. But I flipped it on, and the opening of this thing was, how do I describe this? So I will caveat this with, I have no idea whatsoever what this has to do with video games or PlayStation or the PS5, because I don't think it has anything to do with any of that. But the opening was amazing. Basically it was like, flows out onto a big city, and then you see like a dude sitting in a chair wearing a crown. It's like, what's going on? He's sitting in front of a chessboard. You see another guy in another building wearing a crown, sitting in front of a different chessboard. Turns out these guys are the kings, and they're playing chess against each other. And every time they move a piece, it shows like a clip of those pieces in the world doing things. And there's lots of action and like very cyberpunky and all sorts. It was like, by the time it was over, I'm like, I don't know what this has to do with PlayStation, but this is how chess should be played. This was amazing. This was the most amazing chess game. Next level? Yeah, it was unbelievable. So don't watch the Sony thing for the games, because most of them suck, and most of them...
Watch it for the intro.
Hey, guess what? They're releasing GTA 5 again.
Oh, good.
This is like,
I'm glad to hear that.
From what I understand from the guys that were in the chat, this is like the third or fourth time that they're releasing GTA 5 on the Sony console. But don't worry, they've upped the graphics again.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, you know this. I've been a Sony fan for as much as I play consoles. I don't play consoles nearly as much as I did. Well, I just don't, right? There's a lot of games I can't play on console. I don't know if it's because I don't have the twitchy reflexes that I used to have, but I play better on PC, so I play most of my games on PC.
God of War Ragnarok, they showed a trailer for that. Looks amazing. If I ever got a PlayStation, that's probably the reason I would get it. There's like, I think there's like 2 or 3 games on the PlayStation that I would play, and that would be one of them. The new Spider-Man 2 game actually looks kind of neat. I don't know. I don't think what they showed in the video was actually from the game, though. I think it was just pre-rendered stuff. Yeah. And then apparently they're coming out with a Wolverine game. Outside of that, and like there's a kids game, and there was another game. Honestly, I'm not sure what it was. I was a little confused. But the rest of the games were all remakes.
Yeah.
Drake.
Oh yeah, that's that.
So they're remaking that.
Drake's Quest or
Drake's Fortune or something like that.
It's like a Tomb Raider game.
Yeah, GTA 5 is being remade. What was the other one? They're like everything was a remake, and it was like, I was watching it, and I'm like, I watched the opening, and I'm like, this is probably gonna be boring, and then I watched the rest of it purely for the commentary of like another goddamn remake.
Not to like defend it, but a lot of that could be because of the platform change from 4 to 5.
Maybe
they're probably taking some of the most popular games from 4 and re-releasing them on 5 because people want them. I'm not going to buy a 5. I mean, can you buy a 5 yet? I don't know.
That was the other thing. But based on the chat, the Sony fans were not impressed with the lineup at all.
That's because gamers and Star Wars fans are the 2 hardest people to
there's a Star Wars remake
to impress.
Yeah,
right? Okay, perfect.
Knights of the Old Republic is being remade for Sony again. So.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
So yeah. But that was like, I kind of watched that today in the background. I was like, oh, that opening was amazing. I was like, this is great. Yeah. And the rest of it was like, whatever. Except for the one new game. It's not a Sony exclusive, but if you've played Borderlands, we talked about this before the show, but if you've played Borderlands and you ever played the DLC in Borderlands 2, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep is what it was called. Tiny Tina got her own game called Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and it looks amazing, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. It's so much fun. Cool. I like the humor that comes out from her. It's hilarious. So
yeah.
Outside of that, it's been planning for B-sides, battling Mother Nature.
Yeah, right. Keeping the water out of your house.
Yeah, well, we were successful. Now I just need to go hire somebody to make us permanently successful. So once I figure out what that job is called, I'll find somebody to do it.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is looking at the same
specialist?
thing. Could be. I don't know. But he's got similar basement water problems. So if he has any success with it, I'll let you know.
I searched around for local places, and I either got a sewage plant, which I don't think is what I want, or I got landscapers, and I kept going. But I like, as much as I'd love somebody to come to mow the lawn for me, I don't think this is what I need. But I think landscapers might be the closest.
Mark had flooding problems and had it fixed by someone. I can ask him, or you can ask him if you want to. How he found that. Yeah. I don't know what. Maybe it is a landscaper. Maybe landscapers do that. I don't know. Because it is kind of like landscaping, right? A lot of it is all about water redirection and whatever. Yeah, I want to get it done. Do that kind of stuff. I have no idea what it's going to cost. We because the damage that we had with rugs and walls and stuff, the insurance gave us a chunk of money. Luckily, so this is not apparently a normal thing. We had some sort of a rider on our insurance that neither of us were aware of that allowed them to cover. I want to say they called it groundwater. So there's no flooding insurance. There's no flood insurance. Nobody has flood insurance. That's not a thing that people have around anywhere. Like most of the U.S., the majority of the U.S. does not have flood insurance. Right. And the ground, they consider it an act of God, ground movement and whatever.
The groundwater was covered because of some weird loophole in a rider that we had or something. So even the adjuster was like, "I'm surprised that you have this. Nobody ever has this." I'm like,
lucky you.
I don't know what it is. Apparently, I pay for it.
But okay, great.
It came with the insurance policy. So when we said just give us a bare bones insurance policy, that's what they put on there. Lucky you. Yeah, so lucky us. So we have a little bit of money, but I also have to get the rugs replaced, and some of the walls need to be cut out. And
if I were you, I would spend the money on fixing the problem.
We're going to,
and then just eat the expense of fixing the stuff.
Yeah, so
because otherwise it's just going to happen again.
Technically, my rug in my office is going to be replaced. I did a whole bunch of cleaning in here, and it's the must smell isn't really there anymore, and it's kind of okay. So if I don't get my rug replaced, I don't care. But the rug in my son's room is ruined, so it has to get replaced because it stinks.
You worked in the basement of that hall at the college where I did, so you're used to breathing in mold, so it's fine.
Amongst other things, yes. Mold, body odor from students.
Yeah, right.
So,
my gosh.
So yeah, that's about it. Other than that, it's just kind of chilling out and doing my thing. A little work around the house, a little lawn work. Most of Mother Nature has been on a tear lately.
She's just not happy.
We have gotten so much rain.
Yep. So. Most of it's from hurricanes and stuff. So that's not that out of the ordinary.
Yeah, today's adventure was getting the brakes or getting the car inspected. And when I went to go do that, the dog had. You've had dogs, so I've never seen this before, but apparently this is a thing. So that the elbow on the dog's leg gets these. They're basically blood blisters, essentially. So they'll get this rough patch on their arm, and for whatever reason, hers is not just a rough patch. It has turned into a, probably the size of a golf ball, full of blood. And she was, I guess, out on the porch, and my wife went to let her in and was like, "Why is there blood everywhere?" So it ruptured, and so we had to go deal with that, and I had to go get stuff for the dog, and so it was a day. But she's okay.
Good times.
She's okay.
Well,
We're just like, she's walking around with a bandage on her arm now. So
yeah, leg. It's a leg, not an arm.
yeah.
All right. Well, I mean that sounds like fun.
It is.
Not really, but okay. Pets.
Pets are things.
It's a thing you have to deal with if you choose to have pets.
All right, I've prattled enough. Push a button.
Yeah, I think we're going to go on into the news and then, get this show on the road. So here we go. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/Iron Sysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/Iron Sysadmin. And thank you. All right, so we've got news tonight. Not as much as usual, but we have some news. So the first article comes from Live Science, and I picked this up because it just sounds really interesting. And it's one of those cases where the headline sounds like, oh my god, there's aliens about to come invade. And then when you read the article, it's more like there's some phenomenon in space that's making a thing that we don't know yet, we don't understand yet. Strange repeating radio signal near the center of the Milky Way has scientists stumped. It is an interesting read, but it's basically there's a radio telescope. I didn't know that was a thing, but I guess it is. It's not a telescope you see through; it's a telescope you hear through.
Yes.
There's a radio telescope. I think it's in Australia, if I read this correctly.
The Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder.
Yes, ASKAP, and that's part of the name of the thing that it's found. The radio source known as ASKAP J173608.2-321635
rolls right off the lips.
Yeah, right. It's really easy to remember, real repeatable. Basically, it's got a weird repeating pattern to it, which is unlike anything we've heard in space before. They go into a lot of details about different sort of phenomena we've encountered that are similar but not the same. It's an interesting read. I was really hoping it was going to turn into, like, SETI at home has finally found something, and we're not alone in the universe, but that doesn't sound like where this is leading.
Yeah. The thing that I don't like about this, like this great, by all means, like, report it, but they sort of bury it in here is, they tried to match the energy source with observations from other telescopes and couldn't.
And they can't.
We didn't hear it. So did it really hear something, or is this some sort of bug in the software?
That's the first thing I wondered, right? So, and I don't understand how these things work, or if they're different, right? Is this one able to hear it and the others aren't? Is that the thing? Is it that there's a problem with this one and it's not a real thing? Like, I don't know. I don't know what the... I'd assume that they wouldn't report on it if there wasn't, like, some kind of fact behind it, but I don't know. It could be
a combination of those things. So there's an episode of Talk Python to Me from, I think, March of last year, which I happen to know because I'm a little bit behind on podcasts, where the guest... or the guests, rather, that was on the podcast work for one of these large, these square kilometer arrays. I don't think it's the Australian one. I could be wrong, but and they sort of explain how the whole thing works and the utter ridiculous amount of data that they get, like, petabytes of data per day. And how they deal with it. So, I mean, if you're really interested in how the stuff works and what they're doing, that's actually a really good podcast to listen to. It was very interesting.
That's kind of cool. For some reason, I'm like, just because I had that brief stint as an HPC administrator, I'm not surprised that on a Python podcast they would talk about something like this, because they're very related. Python and HPC are very closely related.
Yep.
Because a lot of people write in Python to do number crunching on HPC arrays, So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is.
There's a lot of libraries for Python that do exactly what that is, right? So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, so let's see. The next article we've got is from Apple Insider, and the headline, again, right? So this clickbaity thing. After chiding Apple on privacy, Germany says it uses Pegasus spyware. And basically the article is I guess like a month ago, remember Apple announced they have
their
they're
CSAM.
going to start trying to detect child abuse and child sexual content in photographs on iOS devices using on-device AI.
Yep.
To try to identify things based on known hashes, right? And the privacy folks went, "Oh my God, you're looking at my pictures." I don't really know where I fall on that. Yeah, it sounds kind of weird, but it is happening on device, right? So it's happening on your device, right? So is that really a privacy problem? I don't know. Anyway, apparently Germany's federal body, and they mention what arm of Germany's
the
federal...
BKA, the Federal Crime Police Office.
So that's the thing, right? So the BKA is the arm of the government that has admitted to using this spyware. There's a different arm of the government that deals with privacy, and they're the ones that were complaining about Apple's supposed privacy problem here, right? And the path they're going down and how it's concerning. So if it works anything like the U.S. government, it's probably because these two arms of the government don't even talk to each other, and they have no idea, right? So the title of this article is a little misleading, right? They say, Germany, as though every person in Germany said, Apple are evil, oh, we all use spyware. It's really not that cut and dry.
Right.
But anyway, the point of the article is that German authorities have admitted to using Pegasus spyware to kind of, snoop on suspects, people of interest, right? And there's quite a bit of detail in the article about all of that and how they're hypocrites because of what this other arm of the German government said about Apple.
Yeah, and Pegasus, by the way, is the spyware put out by the NSO group, the infamous NSO group that has been hacked multiple times and is the cause of all sorts of consternation about spyware because they're basically building cyber warfare tools and selling them to damn near everybody with no conscience at all. They don't care who it is.
The article also says that Germany's government says that they have limited the use of this spyware and they've turned off certain features. I don't know. How much can you believe that? Right? So, I'm putting spyware on people's devices.
Right.
Isn't that bad enough? But it's not so bad. I turned off features.
Well, it depends, right? So if you're putting spyware on average Joe's machines without any due process, yeah, that's
right.
Like, what the hell? But if you're doing it through a sting operation with the courts knowing about, if process is being followed properly,
that's another thing
then maybe it's a different story.
That's another thing where context is missing from this article, right? The idea that the government is spying on people in itself is like, oh my God, they're spying on people. But if it's a case of law enforcement or whatever, or things akin to what the NSA does in the U.S., where they're spying on foreign governments and whatever for the purpose of national security, I don't know. Those get to be gray areas, right? Because
So the whole
privacy is privacy, but privacy of other citizens of other governments, it gets weird, right? Because these are governments that we may literally be at war with, or Germany could eventually be at war with. I don't know. I don't know where I fall in all that.
I feel like the whole. Well, so there's a couple things. So I think the Apple thing is the whole Apple CSAM scanning thing was blown entirely out of proportion for the wrong reasons. Yeah. So when it first came out and people were freaking out about it, they're looking at my pictures, very, very clearly there was a misunderstanding, this absolutely broad daylight misunderstanding of it's running on your phone. It's not actually transferring those pictures to Apple and somebody's looking this is happening on your local device. And it muddied the waters further by trying to explain how iPhotos, what the hell is it called? Apple Photos in iCloud. Yeah. How the circumstances under which those would be scanned, because basically the only scanning that's happening is on your handheld device. Your phone is doing the scanning. So the only way that your iCloud photos would be scanned is if you're syncing them with your phone. So if you don't sync them with your phone, they can't see them because everything's encrypted, et cetera, et cetera. That was like the first big thing, and that like at that point I almost basically tuned it out because I was like, this is stupid because people are freaking out over the wrong thing. And I still think that's a dumb reason to freak out over it. But there are two other reasons that are actually fairly legitimate. One is that the photo DNA technique that they're using has some problems. So there's a legitimate technical issue that needs to be worked through before this is a viable solution, because it is possible to craft an image that would get people in trouble, etc. The other issue is more of a political what if issue, and the idea is if they're doing this on the phone, and look, the cat's out of the bag at this point, right? So like they know it's possible. So if governments want to do this, they're just going to push it. But if you could run a scan on their phone for pictures and looking for child pornography, you could run a scan on their phone looking for whatever we want you to look for, and then report back to us.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Legit.
Looking for drug use or looking for whatever.
Right.
Looking for people in turbans.
Exactly. Perfectly legit. Yes. But again, cat's out of the bag. I think if this is a thing that would happen, then it's just going to happen. So
it's going to happen, right?
So the whole CSAM thing at this point, like, yes, by all means, please stop child pornography. Like, throw those.
Yeah, right. The problem is the protect the children argument is too easy to be like, yes. Oh yeah, well, absolutely, we have to protect the children. But then it turns into, well, in order to protect the children, we have to take away all these things that you consider valuable, rights or privacies, right? And that's where it gets to be difficult. Yes, we all want to see children protected because they're children, right?
Yeah.
And nobody wants to see children harmed in any way, whether it's through sexually explicit things or through abuse or through whatever. There's 100 different reasons, right? But we can't really give away our privacy in the name of protecting the children.
Yeah.
But then if you say that out loud, you're like, oh, well, people will accuse you of being for, child abuse.
Think of the children.
It's like, think of the children.
This might be the first instance of think of the children where they're actually thinking of the children.
Yeah,
the whole purpose of this is to stop.
But because of the history of that argument, we all knee-jerk react. Oh, but our privacy.
Yeah, no. No, by all means. Like, I would like to know more about the process, and I want to know exactly how it goes, and et cetera.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's actually just because you're trying to protect kids, which is weird, and I think like a lot of people are like, wait, what? You actually have good motives? There's got to be more to this. It's not just for kids.
There's more. There has to be more to this.
Which is I mean, sad but funny. But
yes, it is. All right. So moving along, I hate this article, but I wanted to bring it up anyway. So this is from
fuck them.
The Guardian, right? Sorry, you don't like the LAPD. Okay. The LAPD officers are told to collect social media data on every civilian they stop. Now, again, article headline, I think, sort of blown out of proportion. What this comes down to is when the police stop somebody, whether you are being accused of a crime or not, right? They have you fill out this like witness card or this like info card where they gather your contact info and your statement and whatever. And now what they're including on that card is tell us your social media, handle or ID or whatever.
You are not.
And it's like,
you are not required by law to give that information. Period.
Sure.
End of sentence.
So that's kind of the point here, right? So, and that's why I included the article. I can understand why they ask for it, but don't give them that. Period. Right? They have no reason to. If they are investigating a crime that occurred at a single point in time, they have no reason to go look at your social media profile to see who you are or what you do or what you're interested in or who your friends are or any of that crap. They need to know the facts about what happened right there in that moment. And that's what that card is meant to capture, right? There's no reason that they need other information about you. Aside from that, social media profiles are generally public, right? There's no reason you need to identify yourself as, I'm this person on social media. If they want that info, they can go do the freaking legwork to find it themselves.
You know, there's a picture in here.
Argue whether they should or shouldn't, right? But
yeah, there's a picture in here of these field interview cards, which have information on them, and
yeah,
there's a thing on here that says that they can request your social security number. I don't think that's actually required by law.
You know what? There's a ton of very leading pictures in this article. Pictures of police in riot gear. Pictures. Of police with a bunch of people handcuffed. Yeah. You know, it's a very leading article. It's The Guardian. I don't know if I trust a whole lot about this article, to be honest. Yeah, well, but the point still remains. to
be perfectly blunt, the LAPD is known for being utterly corrupt and like having all sorts of problems. So like, they do stop and frisk and all that stuff. Right. But some of this stuff. So my understanding, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm not. I don't have firsthand knowledge, but my understanding is that unless, actually, even if you are taken into custody, you are not required by law to present identification, period. So, like, there's only certain points in time where things have happened, like, short of being under arrest, you're not required by law to show any of that. So, like, asking for your social security number, like, yeah, no. Like, just it's not going to happen. Right. Have fun arresting me and taking me to jail on that one, because that's I'm not giving you my social media accounts. I don't give those to anybody. I'm not giving you my social security number. What else? I'll tell you my name, and that's about it. I'm not required unless you're arresting me. In which case, you're going to run my prints and everything else.
Yeah,
and then,
that's my thing, right?
I was in the military. You'll know everything. So.
They specify that in the article. Now, again, the article has a number of things that I have problems with, but this is not if you're being arrested. This is this is an info card for I'm a witness to a crime.
This is part. So how do I put this? I do not follow the thin blue line or whatever bullshit thing that's out there now. I have had friends who are police. I think there are some very upstanding police out there. But I will also say that, the whole all cops are bastards movement isn't wrong. Because what happens is, and this isn't always the cop's fault. They're in a position of authority, but when you're basically taught when a cop asks you a question, you answer it. So if a cop asks you, I need your social media and your social security number, like, people are just going to give it to them because
they think
people
they
do not understand their rights. This is not information that you need. And the police department, this specifically, the police department is taking advantage of that to be able to build dossiers on people. And this is not a conspiracy thing. They are able to use that to tie that to people, potentially to use it for solving crimes, but especially in the case of LAPD and several other organizations, that's not all it's used for. It's also used for putting down protests and like all sorts of very negative things that people have an absolute right to do.
Right.
And that's how they use it. And that in that case, like, to me, that's they kiss my ass. Like, take me to jail because I'm not giving you that information.
Yeah, I mean, you and I fall on slightly different sides of this argument, and I don't want to make this a political debate,
all good.
Whatever, right? Like, I generally believe, in my own experience, a lot of cops get a bad rap, right? But there are absolutely cops out there that are that don't have your best interests in heart. They're on a power trip. I've seen it locally here in the little town that we live in, right? I mean, my dad has run with EMS, and he's had a close relationship with lots of police officers in this little town that we're in. And even he'll tell you that a lot of them are on a power trip. It's a thing that comes with the badge sometimes, right? And I hate that it's true, but I also think that there's a lot of cops that get a bad rap because of the bad apples. And there may be organizations that are more corrupt than others. All I can see is what's nearby. But
and you know, I think some of the reason that the police end up in the position that they're in is because they've been asked to do everything. You know, like
right.
You know, my wife worked as a nurse for a while at a it's like a halfway house, if you will, and had somebody who fell over and was a heavy-set woman, and she couldn't get her up, so she called for ambulance assistance to pick her up, and the police are who showed up.
Yeah,
you know, like hands on weapons, coming in, trying to like look at, you know, like what's going on, you know, etc. And it's like, why are the police here?
That's actually not uncommon.
No, it's not.
Right? And you wouldn't know this unless you've worked with EMS. Sometimes when there's just a thing that does not necessarily require medical attention, but requires strong people, they'll send the cops or the firefighters instead of the ambulance, right? And that comes down
except
to
that the cops,
whoever answered the phone.
Right.
When you, right, exactly. They should not have showed up with hands on their guns.
No, my point is the police came in all, you know, pushy and guns on their whatever, but the police didn't help. They weren't there to help. The police were there to assess the situation, blah, 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 look for whatever, and refused to help her. She had to wait for the ambulance to come to help her. That's not why they were sent. They were sent because that's procedure.
Okay.
So I mean that's my point, right? And there's a couple of cities, towns, etc. across the U.S. now who are changing how they're doing things and are sending out, mental health professionals or just the EMS or whoever, and not sending police. And weirdly enough, they've had this really precipitous drop in the amount of incidents. So you know. I'm not sure there's a correlation there, but
I and maybe it's because I'm an optimist, generally an optimist. I always feel like there's more than one side to these stories.
Yeah.
And I also feel like a lot of these cases are very difficult to judge from the sidelines like we get to do, right? You look back at an incident, it's really easy to say that person did the wrong thing, right? Whether it was a cop or the person that the cop arrested, right? We can all look back at all the various events of the past couple years and be like, well, that guy was in the wrong. That guy was in the wrong. Why did that guy respond the way that he did? That guy was obviously a criminal, but whatever, right? Pick any of the incidents that have occurred.
Armchair quarterback, hindsight is 20/20, etc.
We weren't there in the moment, right? And I'm not trying to justify any of the atrocities that we've seen in the news in the past couple years, but I'm simply saying it's really easy to look at a situation from outside and say, well, that guy reacted in the wrong way, right? I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to defend anybody.
Right, yeah, but
I'm always looking, I'm an optimist. I'm always looking for like, oh, well, that guy's been misjudged. Well, sometimes I'm wrong.
Well,
he may have been a complete asshole and he had it in for the guy.
And
whatever.
And maybe, you know, if we walk away from, you know, cops are the problem, maybe we, you know, just looking at it and saying, that's weird. We're sending the cops out for everything, including these 900 situations that they're simply not trained for. They do not get this training, period, end of story. Like, this is not something they will ever be trained for. Maybe we should send out people who are trained for this sort of thing, and there'll be less of a problem. Like, they're adults. If they can evaluate, like, you can have cops on standby or whatever, but if they don't need to be there, then don't send them.
The other side could be, are there people available that are trained for that thing? The cops are generally sent out for almost anything because they're expected to deal with anything, right?
Right.
And a lot of them can't. And that's why we end up in some of the situations that we've been in. They've responded poorly to a thing they weren't trained to deal with in the first place.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, I'm not trying to make it a political thing. I'm just, again, this is just my outlook on just about anything, right?
Yep.
I always, I have trouble believing that most people are inherently evil, right? They were trying to do the thing they thought was right at the time. and they made a bad choice, right? Now, when you're a police officer, a bad choice has a lot of consequences. I'm not saying they shouldn't be held accountable for those things, but I also feel like crucifying the entire police force in the entire freaking United States of America might not be the right reaction.
Yes. And I don't want to, like, so I think the way to put it is not that I believe every cop is evil and etc. I think the underlying system that is training them what to do, how to react, etc. That's the problem. You know, it's not that Joe Cop is, you know, just an inherently evil person, and because he became a cop, suddenly he's going to go out and kill people. But the system, the way the system is set up, Joe Cop is going to go out and he's going to lean on certain people, and he's going to react different ways to different people because this is what he's been taught to do, and this is the information he's been given and what he's been told he has to do, how to deal with it. And I think that system is very broken. I mean, there's a NPR had a really good series on the system that I think it was used in New York. I forget what it was called, but the guy who, it was basically a system based on statistical analysis. And in the end, it worked, but it also very much broke things because now the way that it worked, it was targeting different areas and sending cops out to those areas and saying, this particular crime happens this many times in this area, so therefore you must bust this many people. Yeah, it was on the media.
Yes. It was, well, the one I heard a similar report. It was from New York.
Yep.
There was this guy who designed a statistical analysis program that the NYPD used to help identify crimes, and it was working really well, right? And then he stepped away, and then it became corrupt in the way that it was being used, and then it was basically identifying criminals almost before they were criminals, but then they were targeted.
Right. Yeah, well, it's saying,
I heard it on Reply All,
right? Which is
it's not an NPR production, but they were previous NPR hosts, if I remember correctly. The folks who do Reply All.
I swear this was on the media, not on Reply All. Whatever.
I heard it on Reply.
I've heard it a couple times. So, but I mean, the point was that
it's called like the Crime Machine or something.
Yeah, the idea was like this area has this type of crime, so therefore send cops there, and every day they should write this many tickets or arrest this many people for this type of crime.
Yep.
And cops are, now you've got quotas on cops, and you're going to do a bad job, and you're going to get in trouble if you don't arrest X number of people. So now you're looking for instead of
reasons to arrest people, and basically they took the good intentions of that machine and turned it around on its head, and now it's arresting people for stuff that maybe they didn't. Maybe they committed a crime, but maybe whatever. Yeah, it was corrupted.
Yes. Yeah, so that's the whole I definitely
I'm gonna have to go look up that episode because someone's gonna ask.
Right, I absolutely think that there are cops that are just horrible people. The whole. I mean, the one thing that really bothers me, and this has happened in a lot of the national cases of shootings and stuff that's gone on, you find that those cops that are in trouble have been in trouble and have numerous complaints against them. To the point where, I mean, in one case, the guy had been fired from the police force and just walked over to the next town, and they hired him up, didn't care about his background, and he went and killed somebody. Like, that sort of thing, that is a systemic problem. Why are you not background checking people? Like, it's a cop, for God's sake. Like, what the hell? So that sort of that's the sort of stuff that I'm talking about. I mean, I know the ACAB stuff is harsh, but my personal feeling on it is that it's definitely pointing at the systemic issues, not necessarily. There's definitely individual people that are bad, but it's not necessarily the individuals that are the issue. Anyway,
so the Crime Machine Part 1 and 2 from the Reply All podcast, episodes 127 and 128. I'm going to put them in the show, or I'll put 127 in the show notes. You can find 128 yourself.
Crime
Machine. But That's what I heard that recited the exact same story you just told me. And then we should move on and finish up the show because we've gone on.
I must have heard it. I must have heard it on there too. So anyway,
it's the exact same thing you were just describing. Is what I heard on that episode.
So now that we've solved all the problems with the police department, let's talk about how we fix Linux.
Yeah, so we've talked about CentOS Streams and the weird move, and we even had Rich Bowen on the show to talk about CentOS Streams and CentOS and the change and the stuff that Red Hat was accused of. And all kinds of nasty crap and good crap and whatever. And we've mentioned Alma Linux and Rocky Linux, if you remember, as alternatives to CentOS Streams for folks who want the old model of CentOS back. Alma Linux hit the world first, and I guess there's a company called Cloud Linux that is supporting Alma Linux. They offer like support packages and whatever to go around Alma. Well, now CIQ, which apparently is I didn't look deeply into CIQ. However, this particular article implies that the guy behind CentOS Linux, which I'm blanking on his name at the moment, but it's right here in the article if I can just scan for it. Damn it. The guy who came up with...
It's right in the name of the article. It's Gregory Kurtzer. It's right in the head of the article.
It is. Look at that. Sorry, Gregory Kurtzer. I didn't think it was in the title, so I'm looking down in the text. All right, so I'll just read it, right? So this is from PR Newswire, whoever that is. Founder of CentOS Linux and Rocky Linux, Gregory Kurtzer disrupts legacy software and support business model with worldwide CIQ debut. And this is essentially, there is now a business supporting Rocky Linux, right? Which is what this comes down to. Read the article if you want the full info. But I heard about this in some internal chatter today. And since it is a public article, and I really don't have any other context other than what's in this article, I figured it was safe enough to share on the show. Even though, being that I work for a rather large company that supports open source software, this might seem like,
everybody can
something
still
I may
along.
have something I may have inside information on. I really don't. But so if you want to run Rocky Linux, you can now get support from CIQ, which is kind of interesting. In a lot of ways, this mimics really how Red Hat got our start, right? So open source software, offering a support model around it. That's exactly really how Red Hat started. I don't know if that means that CIQ is on the same path that we're on, or if they will succeed or not. But I thought it was newsworthy. And so it's here.
Yeah. So CIQ apparently is Control IQ because that's the website, controliq.com.
Okay.
Like CTRL, like control on your keyboard. I don't know what that means.
Control IQ.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that means, but okay. I do want to. I would like to plead with the world for a moment. Can we please stop using the word disrupt? He created a tech support company. Congratulations. You haven't disrupted a goddamn thing.
He's also referred to as legendary in this article, so I don't...
That's fine.
Legendary? Legendary is a big word.
Okay. I mean, maybe he is. I don't know. Like, I don't know the guy, so... And I've used CentOS for years, and I'm sorry, Gregory.
I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah, I actually...
he can't be that legendary.
I actually didn't...
At least in my mind.
I didn't know his name until this. Actually, I wasn't aware that he was the founder of CentOS. It was... I can't remember the guy's name that I always saw putting the updates out for CentOS, but it was not a Gregory Kurtzer.
Okay.
So, I didn't know his name. Like, whatever. Like, cool. You started a company. You're doing tech support. I'm very confused as to what exactly here is being disrupted. I would like to know.
It's really just another company offering support around a Linux distribution, which is what Ubuntu does. It's what whoever supports SUSE Linux now does.
Yeah.
It's what Red Hat does. This isn't disruptive. It's just another company that's doing something that a number of companies are already doing. So
yeah, I click through the website because I'm like, oh, okay, he's disrupting it. So there's something new and interesting here.
What's disruptive about it?
Right? Like, this is some sort of new angle on how to do, and I'm sort of looking through his website, and I'm like, okay, so he supports software. Like, I don't understand what the difference is.
Yeah.
So if I'm wrong,
and
please let me know.
There's like these full support from open source enthusiasts, right? And there's these 4 points they bring out. Community. Well, that's not really support. That's actively listening and partnering with the Rocky Linux community. Okay, so Red Hat does that, except not for Rocky, but for Fedora.
You could argue that any company supports their community. Like, I mean, some people are
enterprise, creating enterprise class solutions at scale. Yeah, nobody does that. Deep level assistance from the founders of Rocky Linux software. Nobody does that. And scale, multi-cloud, multi-cluster, performance, scalable, flexible, and automation. Totally new, disruptive.
Yeah, so I don't want anybody to misunderstand this. I wish the guy the best of luck. I hope his company is great.
Absolutely.
And not trying to bash his company by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
I just, to say that you're disruptive means that you're doing something new and interesting, and not that what he's doing isn't interesting, but
not really new.
It's a tech support company.
Yeah.
I like, that's great. That's wonderful, but it's just a tech support company. So,
folks, I'm grateful for anyone who stuck with us for this far. I did not think that without Uncle Mark we would go on for 3 hours, but we did. And really, Jason's mic going crazy is the only thing that really stopped us. So, thank you for sticking around if you're watching the live stream. If you're listening to the audio-only version, thank you as well for listening. If you want to watch us live, you should check out the Iron Sysadmin podcast on both Twitch and YouTube. The links to both of those are in the show notes. The links to all the crap we talked about tonight, wherever I could gather the links, are also in the show notes. Jason, if you can figure out what episode of the Talk Python to Me podcast had that information about radio telescopes, that'd be great if you could get it to me, and I'll try to put that in the show notes as well. Yeah. So that's just about everything. If you want to find us on social media, look us up on both Twitter and Facebook. Look for the Iron Sysadmin podcast. Remember, you can support us on Patreon and Teespring. I talked about that earlier. Again, links in the notes. I'm not going to belabor this any more than I have to. Jason, do you have any final words for the listeners tonight?
I'm afraid to talk loudly.
Because you might make your mic go weird again?
I also can't mute myself, so, if I have to cough or something, it's like...
Okay, well, we're almost done, so it's fine. Just don't cough for the next couple minutes.
Episode number 257, by the way.
Episode 257. All right, I will make sure.
It was March 28th, 2020.
Episode 257. So that's in the notes as well, along with a link to the Talk Python. It's just talkpython.fm.
Yeah, and holy crap, am I behind?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've basically, I don't listen to podcasts anymore because I can't keep up. I listen to a couple, and that's about it. A lot of them that I listen to every day, I don't listen to anymore. I haven't listened to Reply All in probably 1.5 years since I stopped commuting. Even though that was a great show, right? It is a great show. I'm sure it's still on the air.
Yeah, actually, when the world ended, I didn't have a reason. I didn't have a commuter or anything to listen to podcasts on, so I kind of fell behind on everything. So.
Yeah. Well, since I started working remotely, it's been the same for me. I don't listen to many podcasts I used to.
It's super weird and interesting to listen to podcasts from the beginning of 2020 now, because everybody it's like one day it was, everything's wonderful and everything's roses.
And then the next day it's like, oh my God, everything's locked down. The world's ending.
The next day they're like, I've been awake for 72 hours straight. I don't know what to do. I can't leave my house. Should we do a podcast? It's really funny.
Yeah. Pretty crazy stuff. So. All right, folks. Well, like I said, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in live. I don't really have much else to say, except thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one. So hope everyone has a good night, and I just need to find the end screen here, and we're going to go. Good night, everybody.
Night all.